Please be seated. You all look so nice with these sunglasses on here. Actually, I'm not going to wear these. But I'm reminded of the last clergy diocese meeting event that we had. And everybody's all dressed up in their clergy stuff. I have my clergy stuff on. But I think they were red, my red tennis shoes, my Converse tennis shoes. And I was sitting next to a guy, and he looks at me and he says, "So you must be the cool priest, huh?" I said, "That's right, dude. I'm the cool priest." He said, "Your name tag is upside down. You might want to just fix that on your..." Yeah. We always have a good laugh at that to this day. St. Mark's Gospel begins the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. So I want to speak a word of encouragement to me. I want to speak it to me. Good luck finding the good news in that gospel, I'll tell you right now. It reminds me of the young man who was pitchforking a big pile of straw into a broken down wagon on the side of the road. A priest came by and he stopped and he says to the man, "It's kind of warm to be shoveling straw, isn't it?" "Yes," the boy replied, "but my dad says I have to." "Well, don't you think you should take a break?" the priest says. "Nope." "Maybe get a drink?" "Nope, Dad says no," the boy tells him. "Well, that's kind of mean," the priest says. "No water, no breaks? Where is he? I want to talk to him." And the boy answered, "He's under the straw." He's going to get him out of the straw. So let's find the good news under this pile of straw. Herod had John the Baptist beheaded. When Jesus was born, Herod's dad was king. He was insanely suspicious, and the one responsible for the massacre of the children in Bethlehem that we read and hear about in January, which I'm sure looked very nice on his imperial resume. He had one of his wives, two of his sons, and his mother-in-law executed. So he was a very nice guy. Okay, I get the mother-in-law thing, but it's carrying it a little too far. I'm just kidding. Herod Jr., the Herod in our story, inherited part of his dad's kingdom, got rid of his current wife, then visited his brother, who had married his uncle's wife, Herodias, who was seduced by Herod, then carried off to his palace, where Salome, Herod's new love interest, was Herod's brother's daughter. So Herod married his sister-in-law and aunt while desiring an affair with his stepdaughter and his niece. Did you get all that? This family had more matrimonial entanglements than Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. When Herod heard of Jesus, the first thing that flashed in Herod's broken mind, being the crazy, psycho, paranoid, chip-off-the-old-block Roman despot that he was that John had come back to haunt him. This man had a guilty conscience. He had done many evil things, and if there's anything we can learn from him, it is that no one can avoid living with themselves. You can get away from a place, you can get away from some people, but you can even get away with murder, but you can never get away from yourself. Of course, John the Baptist had called Herod on the carpet, publicly rebuking him for what he did, for his crimes. John was a brave man. Herod had John locked up, but he still feared and respected him. He used to go and listen to him while John was in prison, which infuriated his wife Herodias, who was voted most likely to succeed in high school. So she got this great, disgusting idea to manipulate her daughter to do a licentious belly dance for Herod so she could kill John. And you thought she'd never amount to anything. Well, it was a busy afternoon, but she did succeed. The haunted Herod drank too much Carlo Rossi Merlot. Salome did the lap dance for he and his cronies. Herodias got the chance she had plotted for, and John's head was served on a silver platter by the executioner, who gave it to Herod, who gave it to the girl, who gave it to Mom. You can't make this stuff up. Not even on BBC. There will be no sequel. So back to our original question. What is the good news? A crazy, relationally challenged leader committing a horrible crime. What's good about that? Nothing. Nothing. There is no silver lining. There is no surprise rescue. John's head on a platter. That's the end of the story. So why does Mark even include this in his good news of the Son of God gospel? If we look at what happened just before this event and then just after it, we might get a clue. Just before, Jesus sent out his disciples 2 by 2, and they went out and they cast out demons and they anointed and prayed for the sick, and they were cured and healed. And then just after this event, the disciples came back and excitedly talked to Jesus about what they did and the miracles that were performed, and the thrill of the first preaching about God being among them. It was great stuff. So we have great stuff. Then we have this horrible event today. And then we have more great stuff. I believe the author Mark is making this point. We can be in step with God, doing what we're called to do, and still horrific events can happen all around us. So we look for guidance. What did Jesus do? We all check our bracelets. What did Jesus do in response to Herod's cruelty? He went back to work. The very next thing St. Mark records is that Jesus and the disciples, they went to this hillside where he taught some 5,000 plus people, and he miraculously fed them. And then he prayed after that, and then he healed some, and he forgave, and he showed people what God's dream for the world would look like. It's like the gospel writer Mark wants us to realize that despite the high hopes of the disciples and the sharing of God's dream for the world, sometimes bad things happen to good people. Which reminds me of a book by Rabbi Harold Kushner, and I'm sure many of you have read this book. It's a book titled When Bad Things Happen to Good People. When Bad Things. Of course, most people remember the title as Why Bad Things Happen to Good People, but that's not the title. Once the author was asked why he didn't title it Why Bad Things Happen to Good People, and Rabbi Kushner answered, because that book would have been 3 words long. I don't know. I don't know why bad things happen to good people. There is no answer to why good St. John the Baptist was murdered by a bad Herod. But we must not let this derail our faithfulness to God and sharing God's kingdom and living it out, whether it's in first century Jerusalem or in 21st century America. Because we are called to be a people of contrast. With so much bad news around us, it's up to us to spread the good news. Who else is going to do it? When we see darkness trying to take over, we are to be the light. You remember that old story about how the minister called the kids up front, like I did earlier, and at the beginning of the service, and he asked them the question, what is a saint? And after an uncomfortable silent pause, looking up at one of the stained glass windows, where's one? We've got one somewhere. Up there, one of the stained glass windows, a little girl answered, a saint is someone who lets the light shine through. Every time I've seen a poor, voiceless, battered, and forgotten person, I've seen God's people show up, armed to do ministry, letting the light shine through. Every time I've seen terrible things on TV, a shooting, a bombing, and it makes you so afraid that you want to nail a board over the front door of your house and hide, I've seen God's people facing evil down, overcoming hate with acts of love, even crazy Episcopalians marching and protesting and feeding and healing and comforting and letting the light shine through. This is our defiant proclamation that evil is not more powerful than good, and that there really is a light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot, will not, and shall not overcome it. Herod was right to fear a power far greater than his own. And saints, we are right to share that power and let our light shine through. Amen.